Welcome to another episode of Cannabis Tech Talks, where industry meets innovation. I'm your host, Aaron Vaughn, and today, Greg Tannor, founder of FlowerHouse, joins me to talk about turning personal tragedy into purpose, navigating New York's chaotic cannabis rollout, and launching the Stay Mellow brand with NBA Hall of Famer Carmelo Anthony. It's a raw, insightful look at building trust, culture, and community in one of the country's toughest markets. Hey, Greg, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Aaron.
So just to start, let's talk a little bit about FlowerHouse and your background. So you've had a really impressive career in real estate. What motivated you to take the leap into cannabis and start FlowerHouse?
Yeah, so it was kind of like a passion project as well in terms of a potential moneymaker. So my mother is an 18-year survivor of cancer. And during her chemo and radiation phase, I was rolling her joints so that she can get through the pain and have an appetite and be able to sleep well and kind of take the pressure away from everything that she was going through. So that was one of the parts. The other part is I had two cousins that unfortunately passed away from smoking illegal cannabis laced with fentanyl. And that was about 5, 6 years ago. So being able to be a part of the community and educating consumers on the right choices to make in terms of going into legal dispensaries was super important to me.
Sure, yeah, I can totally understand. So 5, 6 years ago, that was kind of the height of the fentanyl pandemic, right? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so one of my cousins that I was extremely close with, he was 28, 29 years old. Got into an argument with his girlfriend. He was living in DC. He was making a career for himself. And unfortunately, to blow steam, he smoked a joint one night and didn't wake up in the morning. So it was definitely at the height. It was very odd to hear cannabis laced fentanyl because you don't really hear that too much. You hear it with other drugs, but not so much on the cannabis side. So it's just really eye-opening about everything that's going on in the world and how dangerous fentanyl is and how dangerous buying illegal drugs are.
Right, it really makes a case for federal legalization, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one way to stop all this fentanyl death. I mean, it's still very relevant, still happens all the time. I know everybody's trying to do their best to block the borders of fentanyl coming in, but it's not that easy to control.
Yeah, and it takes such a small amount to kill you, right? I mean, you can have fentanyl-laced cannabis and not even be able to see it, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the scary part, right? And you kind of think like, why are drug dealers lacing drugs with fentanyl? Number one is if it's used the right way, it's extremely addictive. So that gets someone hooked on that product from their dealer. But unfortunately, it's never used the right way. And there are too many deaths that lead from fentanyl overdoses, and it just kills you right away. I mean, it's completely mishandled. It
Right.
should not even exist.
So know your flower and know the person you're getting your flower from.
100%.
Yeah, back to building FlowerHouse. What was the vision when you launched FlowerHouse, and how has that evolved as the New York market has taken shape?
It's really interesting. You go into a market, especially a new market like New York, and like, what is the vision? And you kind of have to adapt to the times and what consumers and retail stores are looking for. So you walk into a vision saying, hey, we're offering a premium flower brand out in the market with multiple different SKUs and strains and see what hits, what works, what doesn't work, and then be able to pivot and reposition the company. I mean, we're constantly evolving. We constantly have to change with the times. And with that being said, I think we're in a good spot in terms of where we are today and where we're going tomorrow, along with our brand partners that we represent and do the manufacturing for, along with the sales and wholesale distribution.
And can you tell me a little bit more about the New York market in general? I mean, it's been kind of a messy rollout, right?
Messy might be a little bit of an understatement. I mean, listen, we're sitting here in 2025, right? Mid-year with over 380 retail stores open. You kind of like look back in the future or look back in the past and say, where were we last year, right? We were half the amount. And 2 years ago, we were at like 20 or 30 stores. So it was a little bit of a messy rollout, but I think things are really geared up and in motion now. We're constantly seeing, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 stores a month opening up throughout the state. So that's a really good sign. I mean, the injunctions didn't help. It definitely delayed the market. And again, like I was saying before, you kind of have to pivot and go with the times of what's going on. Like, how do you scale? How do you not scale? How do you stay alive for the most part in terms of cash flow and managing that cash flow? So there's a bunch of different aspects that you have to look at, especially in the beginning of a market. And New York, even though it's been 2.5 years of sales, is still in the beginning of the market. There's so much growth and maturity that has to happen in this market.
Right. And what kind of trends are you seeing in the New York market and maybe like throughout the Northeast?
Yeah, I mean, the trends are pretty consistent right now. I mean, consumers want that high THC, right? They want anything that's above 27, 28, up to low 30s, mid 30s, if it exists out there, and value, right? So high potency cannabis and the right value. I think there's a lot of education that still needs to happen with products, with bud tenders, with consumers, so that we can educate the market. Been like, listen, you might think that you're smoking the best weed because it says 32% on the jar, but at the end of the day, the cannabis at low 20s or even high teens might still have the same effect on you, right? So right now, what we're seeing is a big value play in New York. Consumers are walking in and they want the most for their money.
Yeah, well, makes sense. Are you seeing a trend toward new flavor profiles? Are you seeing, terpene infused flower come up at all?
Yeah, you have the live resin, live rosin, diamond infused flower as well. Terp profiles are super important. Cannabinoids are important. Everything is important. People want to constantly try different things. I mean, I think it's over 50% of consumers that go into the stores are a first-time buyer of legal cannabis. So they're really in these stores to get educated on brands and products and different SKUs that are going to make them feel a different way. Again, going back to it, it's a lot of education, and there are so many different things that you have to evolve with the type of market like New York right now.
Right. So you recently teamed up with Carmelo Anthony to launch Stay Mellow. How did that partnership come together, and what's the mission behind the brand?
So first answer, the way that it came together is my head of operations, Ben Adams, came from Oregon. He had a very strong relationship with Jesse Horton, that's part of Grand National, and that owns the brand and the cultivation called Loud, LOWD, out in Oregon. So they remained really close. I had an opportunity to meet Mello and Jesse and kind of give my pitch on the New York market and what I can do for them. So it was kind of like an organic growth. There was a lot of meetings. There was about 4 or 5 meetings before we actually shook hands and brought it to market. We shook hands actually on my birthday in January, and we got going pretty much at the end of February, early March, and brought them to market in 45 days. Hit about 60 stores in the initial output of the product, and now we're in over 100 stores. So the whole mission about Stay Mellow is, listen, Melo's known for basketball, right? But he's known for so many different things. Stay Mellow is a lifestyle. It's about wellness. It's about health. It's about doing good for your body. I mean, the strain names really speak to that, right? You have Rev, Recover, and it really speaks to the mindset of what Mello is looking to put out there in terms of his mission statement for the cannabis market in New York. He did this in Oregon. It was super successful. It's super successful in New York as well. And this is a brand that's going to be around for a long time. I don't see this dying out. It's not a quote unquote celebrity brand. A lot of people like to say it's a celebrity brand. It's a celebrity brand. Celebrity brands don't work. Carmelo is a celebrity, but he's also very in tune with the culture and the community of cannabis and in New York as well. He loves to give back. He loves to visit those stores. He loves to speak to people that have been impacted. So, I'm thrilled and honored for him to be a partner with us and for us to be able to represent his brand the right way.
Right. Yeah. The authenticity always comes through. So congrats, by the way, on, doing the deal on your birthday. So you said it took 4 or 5 meetings. But once you did finally shake hands, it looks like it all took off pretty quickly. Can you tell me a little bit more about getting into those initial stores and what the journey has been like?
Yeah, so the journey has been super exciting. I mean, we have a great team behind us at Flower House, and we attacked this by giving out some soft feelers, been like, hey, Mello's coming, Mello's coming. Everyone started to get really excited about the flower. And don't forget that Mello curated all this, right? He hand selected the strains that are going in and very involved with packaging. He was on meetings with us. He's very, very involved, which made him a great partner as well. So we just attacked these stores and kind of put out this like blast in the market, been like, hey, we're launching Stay Mellow. You might have heard about this. Here's some samples of the flower. Let's talk about it, right? Let's have an initial order size and figure out how to attack the state, going to all the different tiers of the stores and then making sure that every store has it because everybody wants it. It really started to have this organic growth where there was a huge outreach, right? Social media was super important to us. We had the Stay Mellow 420 page on Instagram. We had the Stay Mellow website. And all of this just started to build into an organic growth. And I think part of the best story of this, or the best story that this has led to, is that Carmelo, being extremely involved, visited stores on the launch, right? Went up to Syracuse and visited 2 stores and did a meet and greet with customers and bud tenders and owners, signed autographs, talked about the brand, educated people about the brand, and having them up front in the center in the public really shows the community and the consumers like, yo, this isn't just a brand. This guy's behind it, which he is. And that just led to more and more growth. We did a tour with him for the first week in April 14th up until the 19th and visited 5, 6 stores. And, when he's in New York, he wants to visit stores. A couple of weeks ago, we had him visit 3 stores randomly, right? He wanted to stop in, buy his products, say what's up to people, meet and greet.
Cool.
And there was a lot of photography there so that it goes on social media. And then everybody in New York is like, wow, he's just popping into stores. Like, this is a big deal.
Right. So, if you're a customer, you could walk, you might come in a little more often thinking maybe Carmelo Anthony might be there that day, right?
There's a good chance. You never know.
Cool. Well, I wish I lived in New York because I'd love to meet him. Uh, so, how important is storytelling in differentiating Flower House and Stay Mellow from other brands on the shelf? And how are you approaching that creatively? I know you talked a little bit about how involved Carmelo is in the brand, and what separates this brand from other quote unquote celebrity brands. But again, sort of how are you approaching creatively, this brand?
Yeah, I mean, listen, everything is a story. We have people in the field on a daily basis going into the store, speaking to the bud tenders, speaking to consumers. We always have a story to tell, and it's super important to have people understand who we are and what we're about, right? So that's how you're going to really lead success, like watching market trends and data, of course, and being able to pivot on pricing or different SKUs that we can create. But it's all about the story of the people we are and who works at Flower House. Then I greet everybody in the morning as like, good morning, fam, right? It's not an employee, it's part of a family. And we built this culture and it resonates throughout the market as well. I mean, I hear a lot of feedback from store owners been like, oh my God, one of your sales girls came in or salespeople came in and like, just love seeing them, always a smile, always happy. And that really is a part of the brand of who we are. We just had the big event up in Hudson, New York at Beverly in Hudson. And a lot of buyers and store owners were there and they were asking for our sales reps and our brand ambassadors by name. And I see them greet them with giant hugs and kisses. And it's just like beautiful to see because that's what you want in the market. You want people to feel comfortable with your people that work with you because that talks about the brand. And that's super important for us.
Yeah, at the end of the day, cannabis is a community, right? And it was a community way before it was an industry. So it's important to keep that kind of grassroots approach alive. So what kind of response have you seen from consumers so far? Are there certain demographics or markets that are especially connecting with the brand?
I mean, it's all across the board right now. It's a lot of trial and error. If you just watch the statistics and the data that's out there and you see the demographics that's going into legal cannabis stores in New York State, it's all relatively the same, right? A 51-49 split between male and female. And then that age demographic between 35 to 55 is that sweet spot. So, the responses have been great. We have loyal fans of the brands. We try to get new loyal fans and try to put out any issues that they've had in the past. So I started running this company in January of 2024. So it's been about 15, 16 months. And I had a story to tell about who we actually are and our reputation in the market. And I think there's a lot of misconception out there. And we're trying to correct all that so that people feel comfortable with Flower House, who we are, and the brands that we put out there. I mean, again, we represent a few other brands like Koa, Dompen, NAR, and we've had a really good response from the market, and people just enjoy the product.
Right. So you mentioned that 35 to 55 demographic kind of being the sweet spot. Are you doing any outreach to reach older adults? Because, cannabis can be incredibly helpful for, things like inflammation, arthritis, those diseases or conditions that you get as you get older.
Yeah, sure. Full disclaimer, I'm not a doctor and I can't give any medical advice.
Absolutely.
But with that being said, we are reaching out to them. I mean, one of the issues is that we're a flower brand primarily, right? Flower House specializes in flower SKUs. And when you hit that older demographic, you do have some of that old school consumer, been smoking weed in the 60s and 70s. But a lot of that generation and demographic has really turned to concentrates and gummies because they feel that smoking is bad for them, right? So it is a position that we're trying to take and come out with new SKUs that do help the older demographic as well to get them introduced to Flower House. But it's hard to do that when you don't have an edible brand. We represent an edible brand and we have the education there. But again, that demographic, and if you look at the stats, that's the primary source of their cannabis is through the edible and concentrate side.
Sure. So what's next for Flower House? I know it's early days, but any upcoming drops or expansions in the pipeline that you can share?
Yeah, so obviously the Stay Mellow brand. We have a couple of new SKUs that we're in production with right now, so that's going to be really exciting. Listening to feedback from the stores of what they would like to see from the Stay Mellow brand, and only growth for Flower House. I mean, we constantly have drops. We constantly have a new updated menu pretty much every week with new SKUs and new strains on there, and constantly reintroducing the market to Flower House and what we're putting out there. So, I'm only looking at growth right now and market control.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for your time, and we look forward to seeing what you're doing next.
My pleasure. Thanks, Aaron.
CryoCure perfectly dries your cannabis harvest in as little as 12 hours. It uses finely tuned time, temperature, and pressure to create terpene-rich flower with the right moisture content. It's perfect for smoking or extraction. CryoCure gets your flower to market faster with models that can handle up to 1,000 pounds at a time. This incredible patented tech is available in the US, Canada, and around the world. Remember, if it's not CryoCure, it's just freeze-dried. Learn why at cryocure.com.